At around 11:30 at night, the guards did their usual checks. They walked past each cell, shined their flashlights inside. Everything looked normal. 3 inmates were in their beds, still, quiet, asleep. Or at least, that's what it looked like. By morning, all 3 were gone. No alarms, no broken locks, no signs of a fight. Just empty cells, and a mystery that still hasn't been fully solved. This is the story of the escape from Alcatraz. Alcatraz wasn't just any prison. It was built to be impossible to escape. It sat on an island in the middle of the ocean. Cold water, strong currents, sharp rocks. Even strong swimmers struggled to survive out there. The prison held some of the most dangerous criminals in the country. People who had already tried to escape other prisons and failed. Security was tight. Guards checked cells often. Every movement was watched. Every sound mattered. But in 1962, 3 inmates came up with a plan. Not a rushed plan, a slow one. Careful, patient. Their names were Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin. They weren't the strongest inmates, but they were smart. And they paid attention to details. It started with something small, a weak spot in the wall. Behind each cell, there was a small ventilation opening, covered by a metal grill. Over time, the concrete around it had started to wear down. Because of moisture, salt air, years of damage. Most inmates ignored it. These 3 didn't. They started digging, using simple tools. Mostly spoons. Night after night, they chipped away at the wall, slowly, quietly. To cover the noise, they played music, just loud enough to hide what they were doing, but not loud enough to draw attention. It took months, but eventually, the hole was big enough. Behind the wall, there was a narrow space, a hidden corridor, dark, dusty, but it led somewhere. Now they had a way out of their cells. But there was a problem. The guards. Every night, guards checked to make sure inmates were in bed. If the beds were empty, everything would be over. So they came up with a solution. Fake heads. They made them by hand, using soap, paper, and glue. Then they painted them, added real human hair from the prison barber. At night, they placed the fake heads on their pillows, pulled the blankets up. In the dark, during quick checks, they looked real. It worked. Now they had time to move around without being noticed. Next problem, getting out of the building. The corridor behind the cells led upward, toward the roof, but parts of the way were blocked. So they built tools. A drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor. Yes, an actual motor. They used it to break through barriers. Slowly, carefully, always, at night. Step by step, they created a path. All the way to the top of the prison. Now came the hardest part. The water. Even if they made it outside, they still had to cross the bay. And that water was freezing. So they built something else. A raft. Not from wood. Not from metal. From raincoats. They collected over 50 rubber raincoats. Saved them over time. Hid them. Then they stitched them together. Used heat to seal the seams. Turned them into an inflatable raft. And life jackets. Everything was ready. The 11th of June, 1962. Late at night, they made their move. They climbed out through the holes in their cells, slipped into the corridor, climbed up through the prison, reached the roof. From there, they moved carefully, avoiding guards, avoiding lights. Then they climbed down the outside of the building, reached the edge of the island. They inflated the raft, pushed it into the water, and disappeared into the night. Back inside, the fake heads were still in place. The guards saw nothing unusual until morning. Around 7 a.m., a guard noticed something off. One of the inmates wasn't moving. He reached out, tapped the head. It rolled off the pillow. That's when everything changed. Alarms went off. The prison went into lockdown. Search teams were sent out immediately. Boats, helicopters, divers. They searched the water, the shoreline, nearby islands. They found a few things. Pieces of the raft, a paddle, some personal items. But they never found the men. No bodies. No clear evidence of what happened next. Officially, the case was closed. Authorities said the men likely drowned in the cold water. But not everyone believes that. Over the years, there have been reported sightings, stories of the brothers living in secret, even photos that some claim show them years later. Nothing has ever been proven. But here's what we do know. Their plan worked. They got out of their cells, out of the prison, and into the water. They did everything right, every step. They outsmarted one of the most secure prisons in the world. And then they vanished. Even today, there's no confirmed answer, no final proof. Which means one thing, there's still a chance. They made it. Think about that. 3 men with nothing but basic tools, a lot of patience, and a plan. They didn't rush. They didn't panic. They waited, prepared, and executed everything perfectly. And then they disappeared. So what really happened after they left the island? Did they survive? Did they drown? Or did they pull off the perfect escape? Because if they did, this wasn't just a prison break. It was one of the cleanest disappearances ever, and we may never know the truth.